Harsch COVID-19 news analysis. As you know, yesterday, uh, a mob of Trump um, people went to the White House and broke windows, killed one person, and did naughty things. So I imagine somebody pissed on the rotunda floor. Um, and I'm not going to say that I'm unhappy it happened. This seemed to be, I guess, because of the symbolic nature of a building that you could only take tours in the past, that you couldn't actually just force your way into. I'm not going to say that it bothers me. I'm very glad it happened because um, it finally, that's what it took to get people to stop playing games with the truth and um, recognize what reasonable laws and orders that the U.S. has left uh, should be maintained. I don't think anyone should forget that the incredibly bald-faced greed displayed by politicians and business people in that wealthiest country in the world. Um, you had, let me just give you one example. Um, you had Obama pardon everybody on Wall Street for their crimes and use Wall Street to help get the country back together again in 2008. Last year, in January, about a year ago, when scientists, or doctors, I guess they're scientists, aren't they? Were already warning by this time last year. I was already watching a doctor from England talk about the COVID. I don't know if it was called COVID yet, but he was talking about it and telling anyone who was watching how dangerous it was. And none of his predictions actually were mild at all, but they were all exceeded because the people who took care of others during this crisis, except in occasional paradises like Taiwan, where 7 people died, 7 people on a small island of 20 million. Um, it was all much worse than he ever would have expected. He knew that it would very likely be a pandemic, but no one could have expected the imbecility that led to, let me just stick to the United States, that led to now, I think you in the United States are over 360,000 dead, and your wealthy people are not taking care of you like they are in many European countries. Most of the wealthiest countries in the world have plans. They pay 2,000 euros a month or whatever. In the United States, they just passed an emergency relief package offering a one-time $600 payment. And all I could say about that here at my home in Isola, Slovenia, is that that is so little money that it wouldn't even help us. That's how bad it is. That wouldn't pay 1 month's rent here for me. So not only did you have a disease that was preventable with a competent response, not preventable in that it would not have hit the U.S., but the number of dead my guess is has always been 10,000. But given the return and the different waves of the virus, perhaps it would have been 20 or 30,000 dead. But 360,000, and by the time it's done, it'll likely be 500,000. Now that still doesn't even come close to how many Indians were killed by the British. That number no one will ever know, but the British colonialism and pre-colonial mayhem was responsible for the deaths of perhaps up to 1 billion. Look it up. Look up famine, disease, relative deprivation once the British gained control. But in the United States, they're doing it to their own poor, and nobody's really nobody with any power has really tried hard to get this rectified. Trump started fucking up and lying in February last year. That should have outraged leaders from every state. This Cuomo guy had the same information Trump had, but he didn't make a big deal out of it until it started to hit. And then he made a big deal out of it and became popular. But he was a month later than he needed to be. So he shouldn't get that much credit. So now this has happened in this riot in the Capitol yesterday, and people are outraged, and they're describing the mob the way that they would have described 1/10 of a good Black Lives Matter crowd. They've been describing the Black Lives Matter protesters and rioters the same way for months, and yet yesterday you saw this crowd that has outraged everyone treated actually quite gently. Why? I have no idea. People are very fond already of calling it a coup, and maybe you could call it a coup. It was a pathetic coup because generally with a coup d'etat you want a military. Trump didn't have a military. But then again, nobody did. And the police were, they were not arresting people. I would like to have figures that I don't have right now, but I'd like to know the number of Black Lives Matter protesters who are in prison right now. And I guarantee it exceeds the number of people who were at that protest yesterday. They've been thrown in, they had federal charges thrown at them. So, is it really a bad thing that it happened? I don't think so. I think it's, and I think a couple more would be necessary to really wake people up. The people in the United States have long been known to be ignorant of certain basic human facts, like Georgia is a country also. Mexico is south of the border. I won't even talk about Slovenia. If you can tell me what body of water it's on, I'll give you a nickel. A real nickel, not one of these fake Euro 5 centers. I'll give you a nickel if you can prove to me you knew before I asked. So, what's going to happen? What's going to change? Trump is going to probably have to go in a straitjacket, at least metaphorically. I don't think he'll get the chance to go further. I think people like Ted Cruz will still be allowed to be in the political sphere, but nothing will be done. He'll just change again. Trump is the guy who called his wife ugly and his father an assassin, basically. And So why is Cruz supporting him? Why is he going way out of his way with bizarre theories, and just fucking with the weak minds of U.S. Americans? Oh, because he wants to be president next. But things have already gotten so far out of hand that it's a very good bet that more attempts will be made on Biden's life than were made on Obama's. We don't know how many were made on Obama's, but the threats were something like 10 times more than any other president ever got. We all know that's because he was black. I like to think that once he'd been in office for 6 or 7 years, that Republicans realized, oh, he's okay. He's just like Clinton. He allows a lot of the secret business shit to go on, and he lets us use our drones and all that kind of stuff. He ain't so bad, even if he was born in fuck Kenya. Is that a country? Yeah. So is Hawaii. Oh wait, no, that's a state. Puerto Rico's the country. One of them's foreign though, or both of them are foreign. I'm not sure, and neither are most people from the United States. So what happened yesterday? It's really funny to me to see the outrage today. This is outrage that was not appropriately expressed by anyone who could have done anything about it. Mike Pence defied Trump yesterday, um, not because he's a man of principle, or he would have defied Trump a long time ago. Um, uh, Maybe he's a very practical man who realized this isn't going to work, and I'll ruin my career if I do this. Yeah, that seems to be the only thing that gets a lot of people to act. And it's not just Republicans, Democrats as well are weak-willed, and and they play politics with the rhetoric around Trump. Trump should have been thrown out of office when he was first impeached, and nothing good has come of kowtowing to him, except this yesterday, because it's just a taste of what could happen and likely will continue to happen. And it will be the fault of even the news people. Wolf Blitzer was outraged yesterday. Wolf Blitzer is a person who has had difficulty telling dark truths since he became a household name. Everybody in the news knew that Bush was lying to get the U.S. into war with Iraq. Everybody knew. And they were all afraid to go against his administration. Now that's those are lies that are now 17, 18 years old. And imagine that's an entire nation living with a false history for that long, and one that was killing people and that allowed people to make a shitload of money and kill people and get off. So, there's really nothing so horrible about things going far enough to shock Wolf Blitzer and various other people. A lot of people are saying, I knew it. I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen. Got nothing against them, because there's not much you can do about it when the wealthiest country in the world puts its wealth behind falsehoods, which is the norm, but it's just gotten a little bit beyond what is sane. And that's COVID-19 commentary today, January